So, I want to share my thoughts on all of the outrage surrounding a few of the executive orders Trump has enforced during his first week back in office. And before I continue, just an FYI, I recently dropped a new video on my second channel, Fem Strategy. So, if you're interested in more lighthearted, strategic, non race related content, definitely watch and subscribe to the channel. The link is in the description box. Now, back to the topic. So, there has currently been a lot of outrage behind some of Trump's recent executive orders. He's currently implementing a mass deportation of illegal immigrants. So, there's, of course, a lot of outrage about that, mostly from Hispanics because it's affecting them the most. He's also signed an executive order that mandates federal agencies to recognize only two genders or sexes, male and female. And he's also dismantling DEI, or diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives within federal agencies. And several corporations have followed suit and removed their DEI programs as well. Companies like Target, McDonald's, Walmart, Meta, I think Amazon is another company who's done away with their DEI programs. And so I see a lot of Black people talking about boycotting these businesses. So let's address that first because I saw where Tabitha Brown went viral for telling Black people not to boycott Target because that's where her products are sold. And she basically told Black people to just buy Black owned products that are sold in these stores and leave the rest. So, kind of like a partial boycott, I guess. Now, personally, I get where both sides are coming from, but I just don't think Black people understand how many companies and brands we would have to boycott in order to not support those that don't like Black people or don't want to hire us. Like so many people have already pointed out, Black people benefit last from DEI programs anyway. So they really weren't messing with us like that, even with the DEI programs. Those who did benefit, like Tabitha Brown, are in the minority. And this goes back to what I have been saying to Black people for almost 10 years now. The only way you're going to get what you want in terms of jobs, visibility, representation is when you create it yourself and stop begging white people. Until the top 10, 5, 2, or 1% of Black men and the Black community put their money and their resources together and do what Trump and the other white men and white elites are doing and create your own infrastructure and your own businesses and your own corporations and your own system to benefit your own people, you are always going to benefit the least. I don't care how much boycotting you do. And be clear, I am not saying don't support the brands and the corporations that are more inclusive. If you want to boycott, then do that. But I recommend Black women, especially, doing so silently because you being loud about it doesn't benefit you at all. And it's because you don't have any alternatives. Your boycotting is almost always going to be short lived because there aren't enough replacement stores to shop at that will effectively make an impactful boycott. I don't know what Black people don't understand about this. There are so many companies that Black people are dependent upon for their basic needs, companies that don't like us. And I don't see the Black community effectively being able to boycott them anytime soon. Again, because there are very little to no replacements and alternatives available. And even though some of the immigrants of other communities are being deported, at the very least, Hispanic men, Asian men, they have created tons of jobs for their own people. So they're not solely reliant on white people for their survival. Now, obviously, they still have to deal with racism and white supremacy, but they at least have alternatives provided by their own people if the white man doesn't give them a job or provide them a shelf to sell their products on. So when I see Black people, and specifically Black women, lashing out at Tabitha for trying to protect her bag, it goes back to what I said a while back in the live stream I did about the election. It is not Tabitha you should be mad at. It's Black men, because they did not create businesses for Black women like Tabitha Brown to sell their products at without having to worry about being discriminated against. They did not provide that for their community the way white men did. That is not the fault of Tabitha Brown. Black people don't have their own version of Target for Tabitha to put her products in. White people have that. So, of course, she's going to tell y'all to keep shopping at Target. Now, personally, I don't think Tabitha should have said anything because Black people are very emotional right now. They don't want to hear rich Black business owners trying to convince working class Black people to buy their products, but they also not about to boycott Target or anywhere else long term. So in my opinion, Tabitha should have just stayed quiet until the outrage was over and moved her products to her website once her contract with Target was over. Trying to reason with a bunch of emotional Black people that ain't about to go out of their way to find Black-owned alternatives for everything they need, literally everything they need. Even if it were enough alternatives, they not about to even try to find them. Trying to reason with people like that is a futile effort. I have been talking to Black people about this long enough to know that the outrage is temporary. So even though Tabitha's audience was asking her to speak about it, I would have just ignored them and just stayed silent. Because they probably not about to boycott Target. And even if they do, Tabitha could have gotten away with moving her products to another store who was just as discriminatory, and Black people would have bought from that store as well. Meta owns Instagram. Are Black people about to boycott them too and delete your Instagram account? No, you're not. Because you got to log on and see all of the celebrity tea and gossip on the Shade Room every day. So even if you do boycott Target, you're still supporting all of the other companies that don't like you either. So because I know that, I am not about to join in with the fake outrage against Tabitha. I'm just not going to do it. And I don't even use her products or follow her like that. She's really not my cup of tea. But with the way I see Black people, and especially Black women, support people in the Black community that have done way more harm than Tabitha, I really can't take y'all seriously. And I also want to remind Black women that the removal of DEI was done to impact the white women who primarily benefit from it, because white men want more white women to revert back to traditional gender roles, have more white babies, and stay home and solely depend on their husbands for their survival. And I already talked about this on the live stream I did. That is why they're making it harder for women to unalive their babies and get divorced. This is why all the trad wife content exists on TikTok and Instagram. And JD Vance has said it himself. They want more babies. They want white women to birth more white children. They're afraid of being replaced. And what I need y'all to understand is that people who are at the top of any hierarchy, they start to get really scared when those beneath them on the hierarchy start to outnumber them or get more power or visibility than them. This is very similar to the response dark-skinned women got after we became more vocal about colorism and after we started creating our own safe spaces. The people who perpetuate or benefit from colorism, i.e. Black men and light-skinned women, had a visceral reaction to it, and they tried and are still trying to silence us because it threatens their position on the hierarchy. They have this irrational fear of being replaced. And that same fear exists in these white people who are trying to reestablish the status quo, and specifically white men. And so they're actively working to keep their place on the hierarchy. And honestly, who wouldn't do that? This is why I keep reminding y'all that no group is collectively going to give up their privilege for another group of people who has less privilege. It's just not going to happen. And it's time that we accept that and move accordingly. No amount of begging white people is going to make them give up their privilege for you. It's not going to happen. And the same applies to any other group that is more privileged than you. But that is what this is about. It's about primarily keeping two groups in power, white people and rich people. And I would say that at this point, it's more of a class war than anything, because the white elites are taken away from poor white people as well. They're restructuring the system so that it will mostly benefit Americans in the upper class. This is why I keep telling Black women, be very selective with who you choose to date, marry, and procreate with right now, because attaching yourself to poor men is going to have even more dire consequences than they did before. You, your dusty baby daddy, and y'all kids, in a minute, y'all might not have food stamps and government assistance to fall back on. So choose wisely. Save money, get your finances in order, especially before having children. And I also recommend not publicly attaching yourself and your identity to politics in general. I said before that I think it's in Black women's best interest to stay neutral politically, at least publicly, and then do whatever it is you want to behind the scenes. Because you yapping all over the place, all over the internet, all on TikTok, that is not going to help your case, ladies. And also, stop caping for other groups and put yourself first. And that brings me to the outrage about Trump's executive orders on mass deportation and gender. I do see a lot of Black women burning the cape, which I'm very, very happy about. But to the Black women who feel urged to throw on the cape, remember to prioritize your own plight. Because whenever there is a policy or a law or some type of scenario that directly impacts Black women negatively, specifically biological Black women, for the most part, we're left to fight our own battles. I don't recall the Hispanic community collectively fighting on our behalf when it comes to Black femicide or medical discrimination against the Black women and pregnant Black women, or hair or skin tone discrimination. The literal laws passed making it okay for Black women's hair to be discriminated against. It's also well known that many Hispanic people don't even like Black people. Many of them are just as racist as white people. And I did see on TikTok where Latina women were apparently trying to get Black women on board with protesting with them. And a lot of Black women are rightfully responding saying, hell no, you guys are on your own. The Hispanic community as a collective has never unified with Black people and Black women. And the women especially have always been hyper competitive with Black women, especially over Black men. Let's not forget the anti-Black sentiments that came from Erica Mena, Sin Santana, Cardi B. Not too long ago, a Black woman went viral on X saying that another Black woman was built like a Mexican, and Mexican women dragged Black women for filth all over the internet, calling us ugly, manly, and everything else. So let's not act like it's all kumbaya now that Trump is kicking you and your cousins and your uncle and aunties out of the country. Not to mention a big chunk of the Hispanic community wanted Trump in office. So this is what they voted for. Let the immigrants fight their own battles, ladies. This is not your business as a Black woman. And no, it's still not your business if you date or marry out. Because I know that argument is coming. I don't recall Hispanic women or non-Black women who date Black men concerning themselves about the Black woman's plight just because their man is Black. So Black women, we can keep the same energy. Stop letting them use that interracial talking point against you, because nobody else cares about that when they date Black men. They don't give a damn about Black women just because they date Black men. In fact, they usually hate us more when they date Black men. So if it's not affecting your household personally, ladies, it's not your fight. And even then, your only responsibility is your individual household, not everybody else. Keep the same energy everybody keeps with Black women and worry about yourself. And when it comes to Trump's executive order on gender, I also don't recall trans people and the LGBT as a collective advocating for issues that directly affect biological Black women. In fact, Black trans women in particular are on record telling Black women how our vaginas stink, how they look better than us, how our wombs and uteruses are worthless, how they can take our men, etc., etc. The list goes on. I've done several videos about it. So if our biological body parts are disgusting, why should we be fighting for their ability to get the fake versions of those same body parts? Why should we be fighting to fund treatment for their body dysmorphia with our tax dollars when they resent us and are jealous of us and our bodies and don't genuinely like us like that? And you can call me a bigot, you can call me a TERF, and whatever else your heart desires. This is the truth that Black women are afraid to say out loud because they're scared of getting canceled. Meanwhile, Black trans women can say whatever it is they want about biological Black women and our bodies. And the truth of the matter is that it's always been every man or group for themselves. The we in this all together because we all Black, that does not exist. The Black and Brown coalition does not exist. You're on your own, ladies. You may have a few allies here and there from different communities, but as a collective, they're not fighting for you the way they fight for their own group. And I'm tired of Black women specifically being guilted and shamed into fighting for people who don't respect us and don't like us like that and definitely don't fight for us like that. And the days of Black women caping for everybody, those days are coming to an end, and I'm glad to see it. And listen, I'm not saying that Black women are perfect. We're definitely not. There is a lot of self-hate and infighting in the Black woman community, but that's also true for other groups. The Hispanics and the trans and the LGBT have infighting in their communities as well. But one thing they do is come together and prioritize themselves and their own issues. And that's exactly what Black women should be doing. We should not feel bad about centering ourselves the way everyone else does. We do have a lot of shit about us that's fucked up, but I've also called that out on my channel several times. So there is no way in hell I'm going to spare anyone else's feelings. Everybody gets the smoke on this channel. I'm not walking on eggshells for anybody, and that includes the LGBT. Black women, burn the cape. It's time to burn the cape. So down in the comments, Share all of the ways you've been minding your business and prioritizing yourself. Also, share the ways you're leveling up or plan to level up in the next 4 years during this administration. And give any tips you have for other Black women who want to make the most strategic, advantageous decisions possible. And also let me know what you think about this topic. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch up with you in the next video.